What is up everyone, welcome to another video. Today we have a special guest. His name is Hitesh Oswal. Friend of mine, also studied with me in Chico State. I know a lot of you been asking me to bring people from different industry, not just from software and project management. So here it is. My friend is working in a computer architecture, hardware, networking industry, which is super cool. And if you're not from this industry, I would still recommend you to watch this video because we not only talk about hardware, computer architecture and all of that, but we also talk about his journey in master's degree, plus how he did not have any internship, ended up getting a full-time job and getting into startup, and now he hires people and recruits people, reads the resume, which is super cool, and also how he has H-1B visa now. So this is all amazing, a lot of valuable information. Before we even get into the interview, let's roll the intro. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate you sharing your journey. I know not a lot of videos I've made on MS in electrical engineering or computer engineering, and I've been getting so many questions like scope and future of electrical engineering, if they should do masters, if there are jobs and all. I think since you have made your journey in this field, it's gonna be so much helpful for people who are watching this. So let's start with a short intro.
Okay, so my name is Hitesh. I did my undergrad in Kolhapur, KIT's Institute of Technology. Then I did my master's with you, of course, in Chico State. I did my master's in electrical and computer engineering with computer engineering as option. And then I recently got a full-time job in a startup called SSR Labs. So I've been there as a basic design engineer since almost a year now.
Nice. And I know that we studied together and we were part of Indian club and all of that. So so let's start with your master's journey. So did you always wanted to do masters in electrical engineering?
So yes, so basically during my undergrad, I decided that I want to do something in electronics or networking. So that was sure since during my undergrad. Then I got into here with the approach of taking networking as my career option. But with time, I got to in contact with one of my professors and got into hardware design. And since then, I'm fully towards hardware designing.
And what's like, how's the scope and future of like hardware design or computer engineering or electrical engineering in specific to United States?
Okay, so most of the jobs related to hardware design verification are available in United States because all leading companies with this field are based in United States. Companies like Intel, AMD, and lots of. So there are not lots of company out there, maybe around 20-25 well-known companies, and most of them are based in US. So US is the best place for this field.
Oh, really? Okay. And is there like a lot of jobs in this field?
Not comparing the software jobs because software has so many applications, but hardware is limited to. So basically, software works on hardware. So hardware can do limited stuff, and software uses that stuff to create all kinds of applications.
Right, right. And I know that, even from your batch and from my batch, students who came to do masters in computer engineering or electrical engineering, they kind of moved to software industry. Now some of them are doing web development or program or mobile programming or something like related to software development field. And there are very rare people who are in still the core field. So that's why I was curious to know like if there are jobs and what kind of jobs like do people get when they are done with masters in.
Yes, so basically what happens is I'll speak specific to my field. So behind one design engineer there are 5 verification engineers. So of course if we talk about the ratio, there are lots of verification job rather than design job, but you will find good enough jobs in this field. Like you don't have to worry if you're well enough in your field, you know your stuff, you'll definitely get a job.
And what specific do you do in your role?
So my role is specific to design itself. So I'm working in the field of computer architecture. So the things I need is basically how to design a computer architecture. So that's the one of the main important things. Then you should know how hardware works. That's how you would write a Verilog program. So Verilog is a programming language you use to design hardwares. So one of the programming language. So you use Verilog. So you need to know basically the basics of how any architecture would work and how the approach you need to take and all. So basically, if you take classes with respect to that, you'll know most of it. So that's the best option. Like the most important part here is getting basics clear with respect to computer architecture and the programming language.
Okay, and so like a lot of people are asking me that what are the skill set required to get one of the jobs from computer engineering?
Okay, so computer engineering is a very wide spectrum. So you would need anything from data structure, C programming to hardware designing. So there is a big spectrum. So you need to first focus on what you want to do. Whether you want to go into embedded systems, whether you want to go in hardware design, whether you want to go in physical design, whether you want to go to verification engineer. So this is the thing you need to first decide and start taking classes towards that.
Right, and can they decide after choosing their masters, or do they have to decide before they have to choose their masters?
No, they can decide after choosing the master. So during the first semester, they would have to take all the basic classes with respect to embedded, with respect to hardware design, and out of that, they can know that this is the field I want to choose.
Right. Okay. Cool. And then, so what? How did you approach your internship? Like, did you have any internship?
So during my master's period, I never got any opportunity in internships, but I was trying. So there are various ways you can try. You can approach recruiters on LinkedIn. You can look at the profile who got internships and see what they do. Talk to them. So that's the one thing I did during my internship. I used to communicate with the people who got internship, and they used to advise me. So that's one of the good idea you can take approach. But unfortunately, I never got that chance.
Okay. So how was your full-time job search? Like, how did you do the job search?
So so how did I do the job search? At start, I just was applying using online applications all the company had, but that didn't work out so well for me. So then I started taking different approaches of approaching people on the LinkedIn. So I used to communicate with different peoples on the LinkedIn from my field. I used to communicate with people who are at higher level, like either managers or who are making some decisions. With that approach, I started communicating with people, and similarly, and this in this way, I found my current CTO, who is my current CTO,
Right.
and I got in communication with him. We set up an interview at his office, and so from then he first appointed me as an intern for 6 months. Then he made me a full time.
Wow. Okay. So you did 6 months of internship, and now you're doing full time. Obviously,
Yes.
you've been working there for quite a while now. So how, like, when you say you communicated with same field on people with on LinkedIn, what do you like? What do you do? Like, how do you approach them? What's
Okay.
your basic?
So approaching is just simple. LinkedIn is obviously for corporate communication. So what you do is you first tell your detail in brief, maybe in sentence or two.
Right.
And
So
then-
let's go even before that. How do you find those people?
Okay, so if you just go into any hardware based company profile, you'll find lots of people in the sub list of that company. There you choose people who are at the manager position. So you choose like ASIC design, senior level ASIC design engineers, or someone with senior managers, junior managers, and all those. And you try to look at their profile. What did they did in their profile? Like, did they had career in just in management, or did they do some hardware design or verification as well? With that prospect, I started looking towards the people on the LinkedIn, and I started communicating. So basically, I used to communicate at least 30 to 40 people a day, and out of them, at least 5 to 60 people used to reply back.
Wow. So 40, like 30, 40 messages every single day.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you probably had a in-mail.
Yes, of
Premium in-mail.
Of course, yes.
So what does your day-to-day look like? Like, what's your main responsibility in your current job?
So basically, I'm working towards building a whole SoC architecture. So basically, I can't disclose all the details about my project,
Yeah.
but we are working towards an processor basically, which would be used in different applications. And my job is to take open source rocket chip architecture and connect all different devices we are developing to that particular open source architecture.
Nice. Okay. So I want to ask you a little bit more about your master's program itself. Like, is there any specific classes they should definitely choose, or like you mentioned in your earlier response that yeah they need to figure out what they want to do and then plan out their classes. I just made the similar video. So would you recommend the same path?
Yes, of course, that's the path you need to take. Basically, you need to look up for the positions available for the field you are interested in. Check what are the requirements there are on those positions, and look what similar what similar classes would be there.
Yeah.
For and talk to the professor beforehand. Like, this is what I want to do. And so here in US, professors are really friendly,
right?
So you can go talk to them anytime.
Yeah.
So that would be the first approach I would take. That this is what I want to do. Will I get the output I need from that particular class?
Right. Right.
So that would really help.
Right. And what about someone who doesn't have any work experience? Will that person still be able to get any job?
Of course, your recruiters know that you don't have any experience, but from the project you do, that is also counted as an experience. So if you do the project in a most professional way you can, that's more than if enough to do. Basically, you need to know what are the basic things required to complete that project. You need to know the plan, you need to know what your part is, and you need to know what the end goal is. If you know that, that's more than enough.
Right. So I'm gonna go a little bit deeper in this. So let's say someone who doesn't have any work experience is just doing this master, or he or she, and that person wants to be like ASIC designer, right? So that person is gonna plan out the courses they want, and then their main job is to focus on projects so that they can showcase their projects in the resume and to when in the hiring managers when they are interviewing. So is there anything they should be also doing along with the project? Like, they should focus on anything else or just focus on the assignments?
So basically there are two types of classes you take. One is they give you one end goal, this is the project you need to achieve. And one is like, you will learn this thing, and using this thing you need to build this project. So on the second later part, you can figure out what you want to do, because the projects you select can be something particular to the job you want to do. But in first part, you don't have enough freedom to pick the project.
Right.
In that case, you should do is you should basically understand that project, what the end goal is, and what makes it work. Basically, professor he or she would be teaching you small parts and would be asking you a bigger thing to develop out of it. So those small things, how those things play out in the bigger project, you need to always think about the bigger picture, even if you're learning a small thing. Basically, let's take a very basic example of an adder. There is 1-bit adder. Using 1-bit adder, what else you can do in hardware design? So that's one key point. Basically, you need to have a bigger picture using this particular module, what else you can do, and what are the things to implement that particular module.
Right. So now talking about like jobs and interviews, like, do you think networking plays a very role?
Yes, of course it peaks. Like, what happens is, I am looking for a candidate. Basically, if someone vouches for that person, then I'm sure that he will work. He or she will work.
Right. Yeah.
But if there is unknown person, I have to basically depend on my own instincts and the review we get from the interviews.
Right.
And sometimes what happens is, your resume is fair enough, but there are better resumes than you. So you won't even if you are better than those people, but the resumes they have are better, you won't even get to the
right. But in that case, the networking part would overcome that.
Of course, yes.
Yeah. For example, like if I came and told you, like you were looking for intern, and I came and told you like, hey, I have this friend, he's really talented, and
Of course, I would like look into that immediately.
Right.
On the other hand, if I get a resume, I have 10 different resumes to compare against.
Right. Yeah, but if it comes from a personal reference or networking, same, like if you come and tell me that, hey, I have a friend who is interested in project management, then I would be like, okay, if it is from Hitesh, like, I'm going to be trusting him.
Yes.
So yeah, that's why I, advise to my audience that always focus on networking.
Yes.
Participate in college events. Those are the places where you're gonna get to network with people. University events and a lot of campus events happen, and career
Yes.
fair and all of this, where you have to go when companies come to give a talk. So that's how you're gonna make
Of
contact
course.
with
Yes.
them.
Yes.
So and then what are like the resume tips? Like what are one best resume tips? Because since you look at so many resume,
Mhm.
what are like some of the resume tips would you give?
Resume tips in search, I would say mention as many projects as you can, because project matters. If you don't have any experience, project is the only thing they are going to focus on. They won't focus on just what skills you know, because they are not going to trust just on that particular para.
Right.
If that is involved in the project, then they know that no, that he or she has done this particular
From
technology in that project, so he or she might know that.
Yeah, and I know that back behind the screen of the cameras, we were talking about startups because you're working
Yes.
in a startup, right?
Yes.
Like how important it is for people to focus to get jobs. Because a lot of people have this fear that startups don't do H1B, and I want you to talk about like, did you get your H1B or did
Yes, so my company applied for H1B form. It also got picked this
this year?
This year.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So it's not that startup won't apply for H1B. It's not that. It's so basically it depends on completely on you, how much the company needs you. Depending on that, they would apply for your H1B. So this year our company applied H1B for almost every employee we had.
Wow. Okay.
So it's not that H1B is not done by the startups. They do. In fact, you would have a higher chance of getting hired in startup than a bigger company.
Right. Wow. Okay. And it's easy to approach startups. Do you
Yes,
think?
of course, because the higher management of any startup is more reachable than any higher management of a bigger company.
Correct.
So, and all the decision depends on the higher management. Basically, I sort out the resumes, but I can only give my feedback to my senior. I cannot select them, but the seniors have authority to select anyone. So,
Right.
startup is a better option, I guess. I suggest, because you get to learn a lot as well in a startup.
Yeah, and since you have been part of interview committee also, what kind of questions do people expect in such kind of interviews?
So there are two kinds of interview questions. One is all related to your project, and one related to the basics of the field, and any hardware engineer should know, irrespective of verification or design. So these are the types of question I go towards. So basically, I start with all basic questions, then jump towards the project
The
questions.
resume. Okay.
Yeah.
And you mentioned that there's two, like one is verification and one is design. So those are two fields into your field.
Yeah, so basically in hardware design, so let's call it a logic design part. It has two parts. One is design and one is verification. But after that, there is a big process of physical design, which physical design and all those things. So I don't know the details of those fields, so I won't comment on that. But that's the part where more hardware jobs are available as well.
Okay, and when you say verification, it's more like a testing or
Yes,
QA?
yes. So basically, using the same languages like Verilog, System Verilog, you test the design. So basically, you create the scenarios on those designs and pass signals to it, and you get the output.
Okay. And what kind of salary range do people get when in your position or your kind of field?
Okay, so it depends on the company you are in. So any bigger company would start with about 100K. 100K.
Oh wow, okay.
But startup would start with around somewhere around 75K to 100K.
Right, okay. And I know that for sure, like a couple of my friends are also in similar field, and they said the same thing, that it's anywhere from 65 to 120, and then
Yes.
again it depends on if you're in Chico or in Bay Area
Of
or
course,
LA
yes,
or all
yes,
of that.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool, man. I really appreciate you doing this for everyone. I think a lot of people were asking about this field, and hopefully this answers their question. And I'll leave your LinkedIn so people can reach out to you.
Sure, definitely.
You prepared to be super famous now?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So people, please reach out to him if you are interested into hardware design or anything related to computer engineering, electrical engineering, of course, he's going to respond when he has time, but he's willing to help you out. Thank you again. One last tip for anybody who's planning to come to United States, anything related to job, just their
Just
masters.
be curious enough, know your stuff. That's most important thing. At one point, grades won't matter, but what you know would matter. What you want to know would matter.
Well, that is what he is saying. That I always say that don't focus so much on college, and we didn't talk about this, like how much college matters a lot. But I keep saying that it's not the college, it's the knowledge and skill
Of
set you're
course.
gonna build instead of like numbers and college and brand. So I'm glad that you validate my statement. And like we always end my video by saying keep smiling and keep hustling. Do you want to do that for me?
Sure, sure.
Yeah, all right, go for it.
So keep smiling, keep hustling.